In this video, I'm going to set up FaderHub to jam with my buddy who's about 75 kilometers away from here. Now, I've got a default instance of FaderHub opened up, and I'm going to start by looking at the preferences. And I'm going to be playing MIDI on my keyboard, and he'll be playing guitar, so I just want to make sure that my MIDI input, my keyboard controller, is set here, so I'm just going to choose all, and that's fine. And for my audio interface, I'm using an ensemble, and I'm just using the in and out, simple in and out. So 2 in, 2 out configuration is fine. For audio inputs, I'm selecting 1 and 2, and for audio outputs, 1 and 2. So very simple setup there. Now here, the first thing I want to do is set up my keyboard that I'm going to play on. So I'm using this first input channel. I'm going to click the plus button, and I'm going to go to load audio unit. And here, I'm going to just type in Keyscape. That's what I'm looking for. It's a keyboard from Spectrasonics that I really like, and it's opening the interface here. And I'll just call up one of the presets, and it's loading in a preview. I'm going to turn on some reverb. We should hear it okay now. All right, that's great. So I'm done with that for now. Now I want to set up another channel here. I'm going to click this plus button, and what I want to do is make sure this is in stereo, so it is by default, interlinked like that. And I want to set up an audio file player so that I can load in a track that we can jam with. So again, in the plus field here, under select, I'm going to go to built-in utilities and go to audio player. And now here, I want to set this to no so that I can stop and start it manually. And then I'm going to simply drag and drop in an audio file. So I've got one here, dragging it in, and we can listen to a bit. And it's just toggling between 2 chords. Now I've got my network settings opened, and it's really important that you're connected directly by cable via Ethernet and not using Wi-Fi. It'll greatly improve the latency. So here, I want to take note of my IP address. In this case, you can see it here, and part of it is blacked out for security. And we'll be using that within FaderHub. Here in the LAN settings, I'm going to enter my name here so that Andy will be able to see it on his end and know that we're connected, and he'll enter his name in his version over here. Now, for some initial setup, we have to send and receive on a different port. So I'm going to send on port 4001, and then I'll be entering Andy's IP address in this field, and I'll enable the receive function here, and I'll leave this at the default port of 8010, which is different than the send port. And let's get set up with Andy. All right, so I've connected with my buddy Andy over Zoom, and we ran into a small complication because he's going through a router. We needed to customize the settings there. So Andy, why don't you fill us in on what we needed to do to get it connected on your end?
Sure. So we needed a couple of different IP addresses. The first important one to get is the local IP address, which is the address of my computer within my network. And that's right here. With that information, we're ready to go to the airport utility. So the first thing we're going to do is double click on that. And then we get a second IP address. This is the internet IP address, which we could have gotten with our browser online, but it's easier to read it off right here. And that I'm going to give to Eli. Then we go into the edit panel and we go over to network, and we're going to set up a port to talk directly to FaderCat. So we go here and then into edit, and here's where I needed my local IP address. So we enter that here, and this is the port that we're going to use to talk to Eli. And once that's all set, we can save it, or in our case, we can just close it, and we're ready to go.
All right, so here you can see my FaderHub setup on the left and Andy's on the right over Zoom. And he's got his guitar plugged into the first track in FaderHub, and we can see he's running it through Axiom for some guitar processing. So I've put Andy's IP address here into my send field, and he's put my IP address here into his send field. We've both got our packets set to auto for send, and for receive, through a bit of experimentation, we set our buffers to 512, which is about 11.5 milliseconds latency. And this is pretty good. We're 75 kilometers apart. We're getting fairly low latency, no crackling, and we're going to jam a bit. I got a little track here for us to play along in. So Andy, let's just play a bit. We're going to trade twos, F7, B flat 7. Okay?
Ready to go.